Come blast off in my time machine. Third eye feeling like an Visine. Blast off, blast off, blast off, blast off. Come blast off in my time machine. Third eye feeling like an Visine. Blast off, blast off, blast off, blast off.
Blast off on another episode of the Hyper Anomalous Esoteric Research Organization podcast, Hero Paranormal. Broadcasting from the base at La Madre Mountain, just south of Area 51. My name is Ryan, the paranormal pontificator of podcasts, bringing you an epic episode today. Today we have someone I've wanted to talk to for a long time. He's been on the podcast before. You may know him from Forbidden Knowledge News. We have none other than Chris Mathieu, Chief Executive Officer of Forbidden Knowledge News. He is in charge of the talk show, the social media network, the production company, and Forbidden Knowledge started quite a ways back. And talk about the guy to watch. Forbidden Knowledge News Productions started as a YouTube channel and a podcast featuring the most extraordinary guests on the planet. When it comes to my short list of conspiracy intuitives and those with their hand on the pulse of what is taking place in the world, Chris Mathieu is at the top. Someone that not only knows the secret intelligence and forbidden knowledge most fail to gather, but a great disseminator of that information, who freely shares all of it with the global community of his listeners. Chris Mathieu educates the public on how important it is to research the information that goes into your consciousness. An educator of the masses who does a great job of creating a valuable summary of information and knowledge. Chris has done so much work in researching the subjects most won't touch and has created an educational masterpiece with his Forbidden Knowledge News podcast and Beyond Classified, a master in the field of knowledge and information who offers information and solutions to the problems we face as a collective. Chris has concentrated his focus on informing the masses of the often hard to gather information, giving listeners an excellent chance to understand the choices we have as citizens of a new reality. The podcasting master himself and the main man to Forbidden Knowledge News and Beyond Classified, Chris Mathieu. Welcome to the Hero Paranormal Podcast.
Well, thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man. I really enjoyed hearing your podcast last night. I think that was awesome. You had a ton of great info. And you've had a ton of great guests lately, as usual.
Oh, thanks, man.
Yeah, I've got so many questions, but the reason I wanted to get you on today, obviously, is to talk about, a lot of the things in the playbook that seem to be, out of the same old playbook. Supply chain issues and all these current events that seem to be planned. Have you been noticing anything like that yourself?
Well, of course, yeah. Yeah, I could talk forever about everything happening right now and its connections to, future possibilities and disasters and what we, should be looking for and things like that. So, yeah, whatever direction you want to go, I'm good.
Cool. I've been blown away at just how obvious some of the stuff is. Let's start with, I guess one of the more blatant things I've noticed is these, I suppose they're just called food production plants, that we have like an exponential amount of them that appear to be burning to the ground for no reason. And have you, you have the opportunity, due to your position, to talk to a lot of the best minds in the field. Have you gathered any inkling as to what may be taking place, or why this exponential burn rate of food production plants might be happening?
I don't know. Are we recording right now? We started?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, sweet. All right. Well, actually, I don't claim to have any of the answers of what's going on, but I have ideas, and I've had plenty of guests on that have theories and great information about things that could possibly be happening in the background, and players involved and whistleblowers. From everything that I've gathered, I think it is, first of all, to cause an illusion of scarcity, to cause actual scarcity for those that really think that daddy government is the only entity that can take care of them, that will feed them and clothe them, and they have to rely on corporations to survive and things like this. Yeah, they're going to be having problems with this false narrative, but man, it's definitely intentional. They are definitely blowing up and destroying food plants, and they're causing a lot of issues with supply chain and farmers as well. They're basically destroying the entire farm industry, and not only that, killing animals, destroying crops, killing animals on a large scale, and they've been doing this for a long time, I believe, clandestinely. They've been really affecting and destroying the farming industry from the inside out, through various methods. And I think, honestly, this is going to sound crazy, but I think weather control, weather modification has been one of the biggest issues when it comes to the manipulation of the farming industry and food industry, and even in people's geolocation, where they're living, and forcing them to move places. And the conspiracy runs really deep, and yes, it is a conspiracy, and there's probably only a small amount of people who really know what's going on. It's so compartmentalized. Most people are just doing, quote-unquote, their job, doing what they've been told, passed down orders, and that's the way it goes, man, and we're just in a large-scale psychological operation to cause people to number one, stay in fear, so they have to think that they have to rely on daddy government and corporations and everything that we've been relying on, and the medical industry and pharmaceuticals and things of that nature, because you don't want to get ooga-booga sicknesses or monkeypoxes or anything that's been going on right now. So you gotta definitely have to rely on the medical industry and pharmaceuticals to keep you healthy, right? So it's all kind of this one mismatched. It's a bunch of narratives that are mismatched into one or two major agendas that are probably unfolding. One of which I think is a global depopulation agenda.
Yeah, I'm glad that you mentioned the animal kills, because that is something that I've been blown away. I was reading about 21,000 fish that were killed in California, and they claimed that these died from accidental chlorine exposure.
Yeah.
And these statements, when people investigate this, it's like, oh yeah, we made a mistake, the process failed, and that's that. And what everybody is talking about is just the coincidence, as you mentioned, of the timing of this and how difficult it is to get any kind of plan in case things go offline. And I'm totally down with where you're going with the agendas, because a lot of the agendas that are spoken about at many of the clandestine meetings, whether that's Bilderberg Group and there's a handful of others, typically, my eyes were opened when I was told, hey man, just buy Agenda 21. Go to Barnes and Nobles and try to buy Agenda 21. It's open to the public. And I did. I went to Barnes and Nobles and tried to order an Agenda 21 guidebook that tells you everything they talked about. And, not only is it strange, the process, because everybody wants to know, at least the person at Barnes and Noble wanted to know, why do you want this book? But, what is in that book is and many others each year that they meet, is basically some of these agendas that you've discussed. I mean, it's just hidden in plain sight, it seems, and I just saw the other day that a World Economic Forum individual, his name escapes me. I believe he was from Israel, was this particular gentleman. And he basically said in no uncertain terms that 75%, I believe, of the population or the workforce was just no longer needed. And, I don't know if he thought that they were in a closed session and they weren't, but it made the news. And, this kind of stuff, Yuval Noah. Yeah, he said we just don't need the vast majority of the population. And he's a top World Economic Forum advisor. And he said the vast majority of the world's 7.5 billion people are simply not needed. So he explained that their jobs can easily be taken by artificial intelligence, machine learning, and bioengineering. I mean, so I think that this is really happening. It appears.
Yes, it is, but I see a lot of points where they are failing, and I see a lot of weakness and mistakes that they've made in the past couple of years to their detriment, really. Yes, they are definitely going forward with this. You hear Klaus Anal Schwab and all the talking all the time about, he wants everybody to own nothing, be happy. He's trying to get rid of private vehicle ownerships, and he wants everybody to stop eating meat and start eating bugs, and just, ridiculous things that the World Economic Forum is proposing for our future under the guise of sustainability. And I don't think that because people aren't ready for this bullshit, and if they are, it's a small percentage, or even it's even a forced percentage, because I don't know anybody in my immediate circle or around me, much less people that I don't know in the streets, that are really interested in pursuing the agendas that are coming forward, and really want to go out and eat bugs, really want to give up their vehicles, really want to be a part of this new sustainable transhuman world where you give up everything, you plug yourself into the metaverse, and you let them siphon all your energy while you're in some kind of utopian video game for the rest of your life. And that's what they want for society. But at the same time all this is unfolding, we're having a mass awakening of people. We're having people that are becoming more interested in spirituality and consciousness and natural things, and wanting to go back to old natural ways of living at the same time that they're trying to do this. And I think they ultimately knew that this was going to happen. I mean, they know how cycles work. They know how human consciousness rises and falls over cycles, and I'm sure they knew that this awakening was going to occur. And this is probably an attempt to either keep it from happening or prolong their power, those in control. And they want to prolong how long they have, or maybe even attempt to skip over an entire era of enlightenment. We're heading into the age of Aquarius. Enlightenment, spirituality, the age of man, and I don't think they want this era to come at all. I think they want to skip it and go to the very next dark age. And they'll do that by any means possible, by any wars, by death, by destruction, and even I think they could be capable for large-scale global resets. And extinction level events possibly. I think that they have a lot of power to do this, and they have a lot of technology as well. But the good thing is we are waking up to it in droves. There's more and more people coming around and realizing this is going on. They don't want to participate. They want to just live their lives like they always normally have, and not be a part of the BS, and not be a forced slave in this dystopian system that's occurring. So that is what I'm hopeful about. More and more people not just not playing it. Homie, don't play that.
Homie, don't play that, man. And I don't know how you do it, but you're such a master of, getting past all the censorship. I've been having a lot of issues.
Oh no.
Are they getting you too?
Oh yeah, man. Like I'm completely shadow banned everywhere. If Facebook, if I post like a picture of myself or a picture of my dog or something cheesy, I'll get tons of likes. But if I post maybe something that I feel about society going on right now, something controversial, something that most people don't want to hear. Well, most people that are on the wrong side of history don't want to hear. But anything that would be considered going against the narrative, nobody's going to see it. Same thing with my, episodes on YouTube, nothing. They completely shadow banned me. I don't even get a quarter of what I should be getting from my audience size on YouTube. Of course, they've demonetized me. I don't show up in any searches or anything. So YouTube completely shadow banned. I think we're still lucky at this point that podcast platforms haven't been really censored. I think that to an extent they already are. From a lot of the podcasts that I speak with, and I know a lot of content creators out there, bigger podcasts, they say that they're kind of getting capped at a certain amount of downloads. It's very strange. They'd have this trajectory of growth just like us, and it kind of would just stop at a certain amount. And it's like, it's a decent amount, but why does it just stop there? If we have a trend of growing and we're still consistent in putting out badass content, we should still be growing. But that's not happening. I think they're kind of getting their tentacles in everything and everywhere, and eventually, man, I hate to say this, but eventually I think we're going to be riding around with megaphones in the back of trucks just yelling about things that we think are corruption and trying to get people to listen that way, man. I think we're headed towards that direction. I think a big stepping stone for them to start doing this, another one, is, of course, the Alex Jones trial. And suing him for however 45 ridiculous million amounts of dollars. And whatever you think of Alex Jones is probably beside the point. He may be even propped up in by certain factions. He may be playing both sides. I don't know, and I don't claim to know. I do know he's had tons of information that turned out to be true, and he still spits information that's true. But what happened with this is it's just another stepping stone for them to attack what they're calling conspiracy theories and conspiracy information, and they're using their algorithms to find things and take them down and censor. There has been, I don't know if you noticed, but there's been a major cleansing of information from the internet. Things that you cannot find on even DuckDuckGo, even private search engines, it's just gone. They've been getting rid of videos. They've been getting information. Hell, I think they got rid of the Georgia Guidestones. I think they're getting rid of anything that could point to there is a grand conspiracy going on in our world. And because most people already know it, so they're trying to scramble to cover their ass to get rid of everything. And censorship's just going to keep getting worse, man. They're going to try and keep trying to get rid of all the alternative voices until they're all gone. But like I said, the hope that I have and that I talked about a few minutes ago with everything else happening, I don't know if they'll be able to fully accomplish it. I have hope that we'll still be yammering on here next year and the year after and 10 years from now. Gosh, I hope so, because this is how I make my living. So, we live in very critical times either way.
It could definitely go. I'm with you. I'm hopeful, but it could definitely go both ways when you see the powers that a lot of these censorship companies have. And like you said, the internet's getting cleaned. There's literally things that you cannot find anymore. And that kind of brings me to my next question, which I'm noticing a lot of lately. And maybe it's just that I'm turning old and I've got kids now and a few gray hairs, but things are not as I remember them. A lot of things that I was taught as a kid or remember seeing as a kid are just different. I don't know if it's Cern or where do you sit with the Mandela effect? Do you think this is a Cern byproduct or could there be something else taking place here?
Honestly, man, I have no clue what this is. This is interesting though, because it could easily just be collective misremembering. I doubt it's just that. I lean more towards everything we're viewing now is digital. Everything we're viewing is online. Everything we're viewing is able to be highly manipulated. We can't find many of these physical evidence of like Mandela effects much. Every once in a while maybe somebody claimed to find an old video of Shazam or something like that. But mainly it's things that we see online and things that we're seeing on TV and that can be digitally manipulated. And I don't know if it is them those days just screwing with us and changing things. I definitely remember that Britney skirt, man. I watched it enough. I know it was red and plaid, and it was not a black skirt. So there's some funky things going on. Are they doing things to manipulate timelines and reality? Possibly. From everything that I know about what they're doing at Cern, it can't be good for our quantum reality. It can't be good for the unfolding of what should naturally be happening, although I don't know if it has that big of an effect. I do believe in multiple timelines. I do think that we are experiencing multiple realities at the same time, and infinitely, possibly. I've had quite a few guests actually saying, including one, you might be familiar with Dr. Bruce Goldberg. He says that he actually was able to switch to a different version of himself, to a different timeline, through an out-of-body experience. And that's not the first time I've heard this. I've heard people having out-of-body experiences, being taken above like the earth and seeing different options of what body it'd be them, but just slightly different versions of their reality, and like thousands of them. And you could choose every different timeline, because apparently every single decision you make is going to skew off a different road or a different timeline that you could go down. It's pretty crazy, man. I do believe that that's part of our multi-dimensional reality.
Yeah, man. And I'm with you 100% on the Britney thing. I was a total nerd. And all through high school and most of college, I always got Britney Spears stickers on my skis. And when I'd go down the mountain, that's what I was looking at. And that was a plaid. I don't care who tells me it wasn't. It was red. Yeah. And when I saw that it was black, my jaw dropped. And it's not just these things. It's I recently was listening to Crow 777 explaining something that again made my jaw drop. And I was raised Catholic. I was an altar boy. And it was, I remember seeing posters in my Christian school of, the lion laying with the lamb. And now it's the lion laying with the wolf. And it's like, no, this is, and I mean, literally you can open up your Bible and it's changed in there too. So this is more than fiction. And with this Cern ritual, the rituals that seem to depict occult rituals right there on the grounds of Cern. Yeah. I mean, people in black cloaks surrounding a statue of the Hindu deity Shiva and apparently stabbing a woman in a human sacrifice and then coming forward and saying, oh no, this was just a mock ritual. Pay no attention.
Yeah, man, stuff like that, and what you were saying about how the actual Bibles have changed. That's a doozy, man. I don't know how that happens, unless we are indeed kind of jumping around timelines. And is it caused by Cern? Do they have the power with this Hadron Collider thing that to actually shift our reality? I don't know, but it's possible. It's definitely a big possibility for me. I've heard plenty of terrifying stories that supposedly come out of Cern about, some of the experiments that they're attempting, people just disappearing, possibly entities that they have communicated with. Shit gets crazy, man. And you look at the AI situation with Google, how it was sentient, and they were even having conversations with this thing. They had to shut it down. Crazy shit going on with our technology, man. But I think it's all by design. I don't know if AI is what you would consider truly sentient. I don't know how far that goes. But I do think that dabbling in these quantum realms, that there are intelligences that could possibly interact with our technology and maybe even have some sort of like Gollum effect into something that we can project this entity into. You know what I mean?
Totally. And it really does seem as if there's some manipulation on some world manipulation on some level, no matter how you look at it. It reminds me of kind of going into an area that I always love to just kind of dip my finger into, which is the Uinta Basin and, the old Bigelow Ranch, the Sherman Ranch, and all the weird high strangeness portal activity there. There was a gentleman named Joseph Firmage who he worked on some projects with the current owner of the property. And I heard this through Grant Cameron and some other folks that were actually supposedly very in the know at the time. But this gentleman, Joseph Firmage, worked at a laboratory called The Lake in Utah. And they were working on some of this very similar to, these 0-point energy devices, or a device that could, they called it the bouncing box. And there's videos of it online. And, it's very similar to what Greer depicts, a box that can spin with gyroscopes. And it may even be the same box because it would create a ton of power. And anyway, while they were testing this thing, many individuals claim that right as they got to that 0-point moment, that entities would kind of manifest in the corners of this laboratory. And again, this is third or fourth person at this point, so I have no legitimate proof of this. But it makes you wonder, with things like this collider and other technologies that are just, not exactly the UL listed stuff you and I grew up with, it's not stuff you just plug in the wall and it turns on. This is kind of next level, and it really makes you wonder where it's all headed, because if we're all driving electric cars, we're all super reliant on our Wi-Fi and our 5G and everything else. When this comes crashing down, when somebody flips the switch, what is going to happen? I'm talking to a lot of people that you and I probably both know. One of them is Tony Merkel in Tennessee, and I'm seriously considering going out there and just kind of seeing the setup he's got.
Yeah, I had Tony on last night.
He's awesome, man. And, he's in a position with his family where if it all comes crashing down, he's like, oh yeah, man, my neighbors and I and the people I know, like, we're going to be okay. And this type of thing sounds really appealing to me. I'm willing to give up some of the comforts of life just to have a long-term, realistic, possibility of making through this amazing reset, or whatever they're calling it. This horrible reset is what I call it. But yeah, what do you think of that? Have you made any plans? I know that you do the food storage thing, if I'm not mistaken. Any other plans that you're making or working on?
Man, what I really ultimately am going to do, I know you probably know I'm going to be working on a docuseries. I will probably end up getting a camper or RV and just end up traveling across the United States for an undetermined amount of time and just have it being an ongoing filming and docuseries thing. And I've already, linked up with plenty of people across the country that are starting their own sustainable communities that would be able to link up with along the way. And, that's a good time for me to let everybody know, if you would like to help me get the show on the road, I am planning on leaving in a couple of months. I'll start in Texas, go down Louisiana, and then after that I'm hoping to hit the East Coast, go across the northern United States, back down the West Coast, and hit some of the West and Midwest after that. As far as the docuseries, if you aren't familiar, I'm just going to be traveling, filming hotspots, paranormal hotspots, places of interest, historical interest, ancient history, conspiratorial history, any types of metaphysical or spiritual hotspots. I'd definitely be hitting Roswell, Shasta, Dealey Plaza for the JFK information. We're going to be hitting places in the Northeast, all kinds of wonderful, high, strange locations. And we hope to be stopping and talking with as many of you along the way as possible, witnesses to paranormal, people who have had strange things happen to, people who know about Bigfoot, people who know about cryptids, people who had no information about secret government projects, people who have witnessed UFOs, and a lot of the guests that I've already had on over the years, some of the heaviest hitters. I'll be going out and visiting with these guys, sitting down, interviewing them, and kind of integrating our talks into the topics that I'll be covering, everything from ufology to spirituality, cryptozoology, historical conspiracies, modern conspiracies, metaphysical, the occult. I mean, all these topics that I talk about on my show, I'm going to integrate into this docuseries, and it's just going to be a kind of a long-term labor of love type thing that I'll be out on the road doing and kind of living off the road. So that's my kind of plans, and if it ends up being Mad Max world, I'll just get two machine gun rudders on the sides and top of that thing, and I'll be ready to go.
Yeah, man, I love that idea, and I love the docuseries. I can't wait to see it. I have heard the plans, and I think it sounds amazing. But it seems like a lot of folks. I mean, I know Greg Carlwood is thinking about moving out of California. I just heard Brad Olson bought a property in Yerington, Nevada, and a lot of folks are the rubber is hitting the road. They're walking the walk and talking the talk. And let's get into your docuseries a little bit. And not only that, I want to get into what brought it about. And also, you've been doing a little bit of what do I want to call it? Dimensional. I guess you've been getting downloads in a way. How would you explain that?
Well, where should I start, man? I think the last time I was on, I told you about my first contact experience, right? Through meditation. Okay. Well, everything that has happened since then has stemmed from that. From that very experience 2 years ago, I've been set on a certain path, and I have an understanding that it was my spirit guides that I had contact with through these meditation sessions. They gave me certain things, certain tasks that if I chose to do that would better my life, and I chose to do them, and it has bettered my life tons. I was doing a full-time corporate gig at the time I had this experience, and the Forbidden Knowledge News was just a part-time kind of fun hobby that I was doing, and I was instructed to quit that job and do Forbidden Knowledge News full-time, amongst many other things that I was instructed to do by these spirit guides, by these wonderful entities that I have regular contact with now. Not only that, they gave me instructions on other things to do, like how to heal from childhood traumas, things I need to learn about, guests I need to have, people I need to talk to, books I need to read, just all kinds of things through these downloaded information and conversations, the psychic conversations I would have with these entities. One of the instructions, oddly enough, was that I would be able to do a little bit deeper exploration of myself, my childhood traumas, and meet different types of entities with psychedelics, with psilocybin. Now, at this point, I hadn't done psychedelics in a long time. I used to do them maybe in my late teen years and 20s growing up just for party purposes or whatever. Never used it for spiritual purposes. Now it would be for a completely different reason. I found it very interesting that this is one of the downloads I got. So, after I moved to Colorado, I was able to move to Colorado within a couple of months of my first experience and quit my job. I took what this experience told me to do at heart, and I just kind of ran with it, which I'm so glad I did. But once I got to Colorado, I started growing my own psilocybin mushrooms. They were very potent, very high quality. And I proceeded to go on a series of spirit quests, spirit journeys. I would take pretty large doses, and every time I would end up getting in touch with my guides, and eventually I got in touch with other types of entities that were just as beneficial, just as loving towards me, and they felt like just ancient ancestors. They appeared sometimes in etheric form, and they would look what you would consider a little extraterrestrial. My spirit guides appear as animal-human hybrids, which is pretty cool. And these experiences kind of just kept ramping up until I'd have what I considered angelic contact with very high-powered celestial beings, very just give you immense feelings of love and just such profound information. I've never felt the presence of something so powerful as to when I actually made contact with, I consider, celestial or angelic beings. That happened. And this whole time I'm getting downloads of what I need to do and just different things that I need to pursue. And one of those, of course, was a download to do the docuseries. And at the same time, I had met a girl that I was with. She was a very gifted psychic medium, and we were together for a while, and she had actually helped me with a lot of childhood traumas, and she had never done psychedelics before, and she wanted to try the mushrooms. Well, I'm going to tell you this story. I'm going to try and make it as short as I can because it gets a little crazy. Mm-hmm. My girlfriend and I were, I told her that I would help her, guide her through an experience. Well, long story short, she takes a shit ton because she didn't feel any of it. Like, we waited hours and hours and gave her more and more and more and more. I ended up giving her like over 5 grams, and she did not feel anything. She claimed she didn't. It didn't seem like she did. But other effects started occurring. I was under the influence, and I felt a lot. I was heavily under the influence. I didn't take quite as much as her, but I was in the spirit realm for sure. So she's not feeling much, but we start to notice that the lighting is like tied to our conversation. The lighting would dim and go brighter and dimmer as tied to our emotions and the intensity of the conversation. And I'm like, am I just tripping? Are you seeing this? And she, confirmed that this was really happening. She was actually able somehow to control the volume of the music with her emotions. She was actually able to change like the station, the online, the Spotify station that we're listening to somehow just by saying it. It was pretty profound how we were like connected to the electromagnetics and the and different things in our room and the house itself. It's like we were connected to it. And that whole thing was very profound. She didn't feel anything, but we started to like work on my issues and childhood traumas, and she was taking me back. And like I said, she's a gifted psychic medium. She's done spirit attachment removals for people. She does all kinds of stuff. And we found that I had a spirit attachment due to a childhood trauma, worked through it. It was a beautiful thing, got rid of the attachment. Well, this is when I found out that there are attachments that can be hidden by other attachments, and if you get rid of the attachment that was hiding it, they don't like that. They get very angry, and these are very powerful entities, and this apparently was one that was attached to me. So she goes ahead and clears this one attachment, and I thought it was great. I felt so much better. I felt like a weight had been lifted, and then we're just having conversation after that. And all of a sudden, the conversation, it just seemed like it got darker and darker, and what she was saying was getting stranger and just weirder. And this is what I remember her saying at one point. She says, many years ago, I crash-landed on this planet. I was trying to find a perfect host to attach to so that I could nurture and grow, and it was you, and I found you, and I've been with you since then, and I've helped you grow to the point where you're at now. And she's like, now that you know this about me, do you still love me? And all of a sudden, as she was saying this is my girlfriend. I'm looking at her. She shapeshifts into a reptilian, like this disgusting, terrifying reptilian being. Now, I know a lot of people say, yeah, you're on mushrooms. Of course, you're going to see shit like that. Well, no, not really, man. People that I've had hundreds and hundreds of psychedelic experiences, and I'd never had anything quite like this before. My whole, it was like I was pulled into a different type of reality. As she shapeshifted, everything in my house kind of changed. It looked like I was in a dungeon. They had dingy mold on the walls. They had bars on the windows. I looked outside, and the sky was blood red. And this now, which was once my girlfriend, is now a giant reptilian. She even grew a few feet tall. Giant reptilian in my girlfriend's bathrobe, chasing me around my house, asking if I still love it, and all this crazy shit. So I'm freaking out. I don't know what to do. I come to the realization that I may be trapped in this reptilian entity's kind of mind dungeon or mind prison, and I don't know if I can get out of here, because it wasn't like your normal. We have loops whenever you have psychedelic experiences. It'll kind of come and go in the form of loops. It'll get really intense and then kind of die out and go back to the other way where you feel euphoria. This was not that. I was in a state of complete, just utter fear, and my surroundings were not shifting and melding like they normally do when you're in a psychedelic experience. It was very clear. I was in a different reality. Everything was very, it was very real, as real as it gets. I don't know what to do. I go and run to the shower. I turn the shower on, and I'm just praying in the shower. I'm like, God, what happened? How did I get trapped? What's going on? It was at that moment that I hear this super loud commanding voice in my head, and it rattled me to the core, and it felt like it was coming from inside me. It said, "No, you're being deceived." And as I heard that voice, man, I puked up some black goo. Shit that I've never seen come out of a human being came out of me. I don't remember what it tasted like. It probably wasn't too good, but it unfortunately went right down the drain. Of course, I was in the shower, couldn't keep any of it, but man, it was some thick black as night, just goo stuff that I puked out as this voice said that. And at the same time I'm puking, the lights in the bathroom kind of burst on so brightly. And I feel amazing, like the stuff is coming out, but I feel so great, and I feel the presence of what I come to know as angelic beings, celestial beings. And as I'm getting out of the shower, the music switches to this triumphant classical music. It sounds like cathedral music, and everything was like so beautiful in that moment. And I walk outside, and my girlfriend is in a meditative position. And she said, I saw everything. She proceeded to tell me that they had a reptilian attachment that took over my perception, and she could see it etherically. She called in her guides and her angels. She called in Archangel Michael and Gabriel to come help with the situation, and that's the presence that I felt. And as soon as what she did is she was able, with their help, to kind of etherically grab this reptilian and throw it through a portal and get rid of it. That's what she said. That's what she said she was kind of doing in the way she does her thing or whatever she does. And she said as soon as she did that in her astral form, or however she's lassoing this reptilian and throwing it through a portal, as soon as she did that, that's when she heard me in the bathroom puking up the black stuff. It all simultaneously happened. So that was like one of the most incredible experiences I've ever had. After that, I felt lighter than air. I was so happy for, I still am. I can sleep better. I think that thing was with me for a very long time, weighing me down in a lot of ways, and she got rid of it. So, some people are going to say, oh, yeah, you were just tripping, hallucination, shit's crazy sometimes. Yeah, it is crazy sometimes, but it was never that crazy for me, and I was always able to realize that I was still in my own reality, still just under the influence of psilocybin, and this was all going to be over soon. That went away completely. I had this knowing that this is not my reality. I am not supposed to be here, and I don't know if I can ever leave here. It was pretty insane, man. So that was my journey through kind of different dimensions.
Man, it's engaging. I think it's great that you're exploring these physical characteristics, your consciousness abilities, dimensional capacities, and a lot of people's belief systems and agendas don't believe that you can get these attachments. But I I believe 100%. And I've seen it happen. I've seen these types of things. And I mean, heck, going up to, the Uinta Basin of Utah, it's very common to come home after I've been at Space Wolf Research and, there's just something not right. And it takes a while to kind of clear that. But I think it's great that you're doing that. For our listeners, let's tell them a little bit about your docuseries coming up and also about your podcasts. You have a few, and where they can tap into more Chris Mathieu.
For sure, man. Yeah, like I said, the docuseries, it's going to be a long-term project. We'll probably be putting out the first episode maybe in about 4 months or so. It's going to be an ongoing thing. If you would like to help in any way, you can do that. You can go to supportfkn.com. That's supportfkn.com. You can leave a donation. If you leave a donation of $5 or more, you're going to get access to Corey Hughes, who is an amazing JFK researcher and historian. He's writing a book right now that will be available in October. You will get access to his secret JFK forum, a lot of the information that's going into his book, super secret stuff that nobody else has uncovered. You donate $5 or more, you're going to get access to all that and a super fun forum that you can talk JFK conspiracies all day with some JFK nerds. It's really awesome, and it would help me to be able to get on the road to get started with this docu-series. It's like I said, it's going to cover all the fantastic and wonderful and creepy and awesome and amazing topics that I cover every day. And it's going to be, overall, it's going to be a spiritual journey for me. It's going to be something that I need to really, I think one of the closing chapters for me to really get in touch with my purpose, where I'm headed, what I'm really supposed to be doing here. And it's just going to be a spiritual journey, man. I'm, just going out there, letting the universe take over, and hopefully things work out for the best. So, yeah, if you want to go to supportfkn.com, I'd love that if you help us out. Anything is greatly appreciated. Also, if you want to get involved in any other way, if you want to help with lodging, if you want to hang out, if you want to do interviews, if you know information, if you've had paranormal experiences, are you a whistleblower, cryptozoology experiences, UFOs, all that good stuff, email me. ForbiddenKnowledgeNews@gmail.com, and I will get right back with you, and we'll set something up. So I love hearing everybody's stories, and, man, thank you so much again for having me on. This was fantastic. Oh, podcast. Yeah, you can find podcasts on all podcast platforms. Our premium content is on Rockfin. You go to rokfin.com/FKN Plus to sign up for that. You also get all the premium content from everyone on Rockfin. Website forbiddenknowledge.news, and I think that's it. You get our limited content on YouTube. We post mostly clips there, but that's where you find us. Thank you, brother.
Yeah, man, and you're absolutely welcome when you get that RV going to drop in at the base camp there at Space Wolf Research in the Uinta Basin. And, we have delved into using some of these technologies, these consciousness technologies like the God Helmet and the Anja lamp. And, many people report seeing sort of these, I don't know what to call them. I think you've mentioned this, sort of like machine elves. Have you had similar experiences to this?
No, man. The only entities that I've ever had experiences with were first through meditation, which I've come to understand are my spirit guides and ancestors, and then later through psilocybin experiences, I was able to have conversations and experiences with more, it seems like intellectual type entities that maybe could be considered more extraterrestrial, less human. They didn't feel like they were my spirit guides like the other. They didn't give me the same loving feeling, although it was a very calming feeling. And they had a great sense of humor about things when we would talk. I could tell it was a completely different group of entities. And ultimately, at the very top, whenever I was in the presence of angelic entities, it's like, man, I felt like, I felt like my insides were going to explode with love. It was crazy. It's the most insane feeling I've ever felt. And I could feel just the power coming from them. It's like love and ultimate power. It was just the most beautiful thing that I could ever feel.
Yeah, man. And I think it's great that, this has been done for, centuries, if not millennia, where people are able to enter the spirit realm. And, over half of those who have identified as atheists before having some of these experiences no longer identify afterwards. I think that's fascinating. But yeah, this is what shaman and spiritual masters through the millennia have used, whether it's breath work or, getting a little jump start with some of these substances. But this is, it's part of the game for those that are, not as engaged or from a more judgmenty position. But I think it's great. I've got my eyes on your docuseries. Can't wait to see it. And I love following FKN. It's definitely great and beyond classified. Highly recommend all the listeners tune in. And yeah, we have to talk again soon, man. Thanks for coming on.
Oh, yeah, man. I had a blast. I'd love to talk again anytime. Just let me know for sure.
Man, I love talking to Chris Mathieu. He is always just the tip of the spear when it comes to information, whether that be, our reality or the manipulation of it by those who control much of the censorship. And, we all kind of have to play by a certain set of rules, it seems. Those rules are changing in function, and it's important to keep your pulse on how they're changing and what you can do to maintain some of the civil liberties we all know and love. Definitely tap into Forbidden Knowledge News, also Beyond Classified, and keep an eye out for anything Chris Mathieu. This docuseries is going to be epic. I think it's very impressive that so many people that I follow and respect are making moves to make sure that they have freedom and that they have their own supply chain of food if and when this reset happens. A lot of the writing is on the wall. And if it is just false alarm and people are getting riled up for nothing, the way I see it is, what do you really have to lose if you set up a system to take care of yourself and your family in the event of a catastrophe? You really have nothing to lose. All you're doing is teaching your children and those around you how to better take care of themselves. Back during the Great Depression, which is pretty far in the rearview mirror, a lot of people cannot even fathom the reality of what took place back then. I remember hearing stories from my grandparents about going to the banks during that time to get their money out, and the banks were locked. The banks were closed. The money was gone. And this same sort of thing could happen again. It's happened in the past, and sometimes the best way to know what the future holds is to be aware of the past. Just imagine going to your grocery store to pick up your food, and the doors are locked. The food is gone. What would you do? That's a question that's really hard for a lot of people, such as myself, to swallow. I've become very useless, very reliant on the quote-unquote system, the machine, what we expect to get for a few shekels here and there is a meal for our families and products for our household. Well, what if that all comes to a grinding halt? It would be nice to have the ability, have the skills, or at least have the intellect to be able to care for your family in an event such as this and not worry about where is the next meal coming from? How am I going to stay warm? How am I going to protect my family? It's really about survival. And let's face it, if it's totally horrible, nobody's going to want to be here anyway. But from all implications and the extent of my research, it won't take long for things to get pretty bad. I mean, within about 48 to 72 hours, if the grocery stores are closed, most people are going to lose their minds. They won't be able to tap into that source, that stream of production that they're so used to. Let alone if the power grid goes down, they won't be able to charge their phones. They won't be able to scroll TikTok for entertainment. They won't be able to communicate with others in forms that they're used to. So maybe it's a good idea to get an old ham radio, figure out how to can food, and do simple things just to make sure that you can get through that 48 to 72 hour period, if that's all it is. But it would be a lot better to be prepared than to not be prepared. What do you really have to lose? The matrix theory thing, wow, that's something that we could just go on forever and ever on. Chris has a very wide knowledge grasp of that and the dimensional characteristics to the Mandela effect and possibly some of the strange happenings that seem to be a part of our reality now, and they didn't used to be a part of the reality, at least when I was a kid. A lot of things seem to be changing. I swear Britney did not have a black dress, but I guess nobody's ever going to believe me on that one. If you haven't seen that, Britney Spears is depicted in a fully black dress instead of the red Catholic schoolgirl dress that I remember and the stickers that I had on my skis when I would go down the mountain and look at every run. So either I'm not remembering things correctly, and a lot of other people aren't either, or a shift is happening. Until next time, keep your eyes to the skies, feet on the ground, but don't forget to take a look around.
Come blast off in my time machine. Third eye feeling like an Visine. Blast off, blast off, blast off, blast off. Come blast off in my time machine. Third eye feeling like an Visine. Blast off, blast off, blast off, blast off.